All right. Hey everyone, Dogen here, and I'm with my good friend,
Yabatan!
We thought we'd try and do something kind of different today. I wanted to discuss how Japan has changed. I've been in Japan for about 15 years at this point, very long time. You've been here for...
Almost 8.
Yeah, but we've kind of lived in different industries. One of the videos that I put up recently was this video about drinking culture in Japan. And the basic premise is that because of the tatemae, honne culture in Japan, it can be difficult to get to know Japanese people unless you're drinking with them. You're in like that particular setting. My first couple years in the JET program, 2009 to 2012 was my 3 years, but there was a decent amount of pressure to go drinking then. Like we would get like these handouts that would come to the table and be like, this is when the nomikai is, yoroshiku ne, kind of thing. And when I was working at APU, they would do the same kind of thing, but then there would be like a separate section where you could write, I'm going or I'm not going.
Okay. So you mean it's changing for the better, right? It's
Well,
getting
not,
more...
not necessarily. I mean, it depends on who's defining better.
Yeah. In my case, I drink.
Yep.
But usually, or preferably, I drink only on Friday nights.
Sure.
Like, because I have no work the day after, like on a Saturday.
Yes.
It's a day off, for most people at least. So that's kind of my rule, the rule that I created. And I probably created this rule because I had to go to a lot of nomikai during the weekday in the past, not so much anymore.
And was that related to your work in the entertainment industry in Japan?
Yes.
Okay.
And I still get a lot of nomikai offers or like invitations. Sure. But I tend to say that I can't go because I have work.
Do you feel like those offers, when you phrase it as offers, I get the impression...
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Is that like them initiating conversation with you? It's like, we want to get to know you a little bit better, maybe work with you. Let's go drinking first.
Yes.
Or are you talking about people that you've already worked with before?
Both. Sometimes a client would initiate a nomikai to get to know each other better.
Okay.
Because we're going to work together from now on.
And you work with both Japanese brands in Japan as well as foreign brands in Japan.
Yes.
Do you feel like the Japanese brands initiate that kind of thing more often? And is there more of an expectation when you work with Japanese brands to go have like a drinking party or something like that?
Yes and no. It really depends on the company and what kind of deal it is.
Okay.
Because if it's a long-term deal, like we're gonna spend a lot of time together, we're gonna work together, like an agency, then they would initiate a nomikai.
Sure, okay.
To get to know each other better. So we can work better together. We get to know each other more.
Yeah.
Recently I had like for example, I had an agency that I made a contract with. So we're gonna work together we're gonna work on PR videos or like event appearances or whatever, right?
Sure.
So they invite me to their company to drink and eat food, basically.
Yeah,
and nomikai. But then we're in the office, right? We're not out in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And we're many people. And I felt at that time that they really wanted to get to know, like, how can we work together? Kind of more than just to get to know each other. It's more about like, so Yabatan, what kind of videos do you want to make this year? Or like, what kind of brands do you want to work with? And stuff like that. So it's kind of like, it's not only like, oh, let's get to know each other. It's also more like, how can we do a better job together?
Sure. I think that there are certain things that are even related to work that oftentimes people are slightly hesitant to bring up in the office setting because of maybe the office hierarchy or something like that. I always tell people about this. I feel like it's like the perfect encapsulation of kind of like Japanese kind of like culture, like how it's relatively speaking more group oriented compared to like American culture, where it's very individualistic. When I was working at APU, the Japanese university, we all had laptops. Working on a laptop isn't very ergonomic. And so like the first thing that I did is like I bought like a laptop stand that I just like put in the middle of my desk. Didn't ask anyone for permission, didn't even think to ask for permission. I just bought it and put it on my desk and left it there like the full 3 years I was working there. And it was so funny because like 2 or 3 days after I bought it, the girl that was working across from me, like on the island that we were working at, she like leaned over to her coworker and she was like, if I bought a laptop stand, would you buy one too? Like, because they had had stiff shoulders for a long time, but like she didn't want to be the first one to do it.
Right.
She wanted to be like kind of like group oriented. And as soon as she said it to the person next to her, the girl that was sitting next to me on this side was like, I'll buy one if you two buy one. And it was like this domino effect. There are some things like, even though it's related to work, even though it's related to productivity, it's like because it's a slight deviation from the norm, it's something that's not brought up in a normal, even office environment. Any other ways in which you've noticed like big change in Japan since you've been here? So before we hear Yabatan's thoughts, I gotta take a minute to thank today's sponsor, Wise. I make almost all of my income from US-based sources, so each month I need to send a substantial amount of money to Japan in order to pay my bills and buy my groceries. Now in the more distant past, I used bank transfers and PayPal to do this, but for the past 5 years or so, I've been using almost exclusively Wise, as I find it to be the best way to send, receive, and convert money. It's almost always way cheaper than bank transfers and PayPal, and while it's not as cheap as something like Bitcoin, it also doesn't come with any of the regulation or security headaches. And if you sign up for Wise using the link down below, you'll be able to make a free transfer for up to 500 USD for free. So great for that next trip to Japan, or if you're like me and you already live here, it's just a great option for sending and receiving money between your various bank accounts in their different locations. Wise also now allows up to 150 million yen transfers, so you can send a ton of money all at once to Japan. You don't need to split it up into a bunch of smaller individual transfers. Of course, this might be really useful for paying college tuition in Japan, or buying a car, or making a down payment on a house. And if you make one of these, a Wise debit card, you can spend money directly from your Wise account without needing to send it to a local account. So this is actually how I do all of my Amazon shopping here in Japan. It's extremely useful. So thank you again to Wise for sponsoring this video. I really like working with Wise as I actually use them. They've saved me so much money in the 15 years or so that I've been living in Japan. Fantastic service. Go check it out with the link in the description below.
Younger Japanese people that can speak English now.
Yeah.
And also we have more foreigners, it feels like, at least.
Yeah.
Living in Japan, like working in Japan.
Yeah, like when I first got here, I feel like it was, again, like 2007, 2008. Like if you were a foreigner and you spoke really, really good Japanese, then there was a decent chance you could get on TV just because of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Where it's like these days, it's like you need the plus alpha. It's like you need to be able to speak really good Japanese. And what else do you have? Do you have a character like Mr. Yabatan?
On the other hand, maybe technology has also made it more difficult to interact with Japanese people. Like if you want to learn Japanese, like especially in Tokyo, like if you go to a restaurant, you don't really have to communicate with the staff anymore, because you have this QR code menus and they will have Japanese and English.
Sure.
So as a foreigner, it's very easy to just click the English one and you'll see everything in English. You'll just click whatever you want, you order it, you'll get the food. Even you can also pay with this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So you don't have to go through the struggle of like, "Sumimasen," and
that's so interesting that you mentioned that, because it kind of ties into what I mentioned a second ago about like how is it better? Like, well, who knows if it's better? It's definitely changing.
Yes.
But as Japan becomes more multicultural, that's like a concrete example of like, in a way, Japanese culture kind of dying.
Yes.
Maybe not necessarily Japanese culture.
No, but
But a situation in which, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you would have had to speak your way through the situation. There are a lot more foreigners coming into Japan, and Japan is doing many things in order to kind of accommodate to the foreigners, as opposed to accommodating to the Japanese people. So like the hotels are a lot more expensive. There's a lot more instances where, as you just mentioned, like it would only say something in Japanese in the past, and now it has like English, Chinese, Korean,
Exactly.
in addition to the Japanese. And a lot more like automated services and stuff like that. You can order food with like Uber Eats and it'll be at your door in like 15 minutes or like, whatever.
Yeah, so you won't have that many opportunities as before to maybe interact with Japanese people and like
Sure, that's a really good point that I hadn't really thought of before. But
learn the hard way, maybe.
yeah.
Just look at Shibuya. It looks like a completely different
Yeah.
place than just even 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's completely changed. So yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't been to Shibuya in a really long time. And then when we went recently for Chris Broad's bar opening.
Yes.
That was amazing. He absolutely killed it with that. But
Yeah.
well, speaking of Shibuya, one of the things that's happened in recent weeks, is that there's been, again, related to like the tourism industry and stuff like that, there's been more and more instances of foreigners, Johnny Somali style stuff, where it's like foreigners causing trouble in Japan. I used to do martial arts tricking. I was the guy that was doing like, backflips in places where I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be doing it. There was one instance where I did it and a police dude came up to me, a police guy, and he very, very politely said like, I realize that this is a park, but you shouldn't be doing that here. So
Right.
I'd appreciate it if you didn't. And I was like, oh, sorry, I had like no idea. And I stopped, but I honestly just didn't know any better. Because I was so used to doing that in like all the parks back in Seattle where I grew up. And it was like the one place that I could find like a spot of grass in Tokyo to begin with. Of course, that needs to be like, where exactly is the barrier? Like, we need to be able to tell people not to do things that are disrespectful, but at the same time, foreigners shouldn't get the death penalty for, doing the backflip in like on a, I don't know, in a place where you're not supposed to.
I talked about this in a podcast lately, actually, about like, especially for my videos, because I do interact with people, especially Japanese people. And you can tell when someone is feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's like the guy filming or me, when I'm filming someone, I can tell if they're feeling uncomfortable. So it's up to me. Do I want to keep going, filming this person? Do I want to put this person on the internet? I know that they're having this kind of weird feeling about it because I can tell. So anyone that is like, oh no, it's okay, kind of like, they're ignoring the facts. They know that this person is feeling uncomfortable, but they know that they can get a bunch of views because this person is feeling uncomfortable. And I'm not a big fan of that type of content.
Me too.
And I've always been careful about it. Obviously, of course, I probably made some mistakes too in the past, but the point is...
Death penalty.
The point is, you can tell,
Any other like things about Japanese culture that Japan in general that you've noticed have changed?
The TV industry has changed a little bit, no? Like we've seen Gakitsuka
Yeah.
taken off air.
Yeah, I think that's a tragedy.
It is. That's a tragedy. So that's changing actually, right? And it's not.
Do you think that's because of cultural influence from other countries?
That's a big question.
If I'm not mistaken, one of the things that happened with Bekkī a while back is she got kicked.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, she said, いや、むしろその蹴られてよかった. Like, I want to say that she went through a scandal and then she was on like a show like that or something.
Yeah.
And then she got kicked like hard. And like the context, and they set it up as kind of like a joke in the sense of like, 浮気するんじゃねえぜ! And like they kicked her. But then I think there was a lot of people that said like, this is unacceptable. Like this is a form of violence. Like this shouldn't be okay. And I don't know if that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, like the instance that pushed Gakitsuka over the edge or whatever. But
maybe because Gakitsuka, Waratte Wa Ikenai, like the non-laughing series, are very popular. It's like a people gather in front of the TV on New Year's Eve to watch
I used to do that with my wife's family.
TV show.
Yeah, we wouldn't watch Kōhaku.
It's either that
we
one
would watch
or Gakitsuka.
Yeah,
And
Gakitsuka.
most people watched Gakitsuka.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be honest.
Exactly.
And now they're like, oh, now we're stuck with one
Yeah,
TV
Kōhaku,
show.
which is like the exact opposite of
Yes.
Gakitsuka, because Kōhaku is like this super, super produced thing where like
Yes.
everything is like very, very scripted, and it's like, this is the famous like celebrity that we're going to like treat very well, and like, well, what's your opinion on like XYZ? Like, thank you very much for that interesting comment. Now back to the next like thing. And then like you switch the channel and it's like, yarun ja ne ze! I almost find it to be like an interesting parallel for like honne and tatemae. It's like Kōhaku is like the tatemae. And Waratte Wa Ikenai is like the honne.
Yeah.
It's like you can see like how completely different they are, and like in the way that they talk and the way that they move and like in everything. But now it's like it's completely gone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's very unfortunate.
Yeah. So like
on the other hand, it's good that kind of, how can I say it? The scandals, like the Me Too stuff, is coming to Japan a little bit more.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about earlier,
Right.
that is completely relevant to this, and I think encapsulates what you're trying to say, is that there's been so many instances where a successful married guy has an affair with like a single woman, and it ruins the single woman's life and nothing happens to the guy.
Right.
And I don't get that. Like, anyway.
Yeah, there are two people involved.
Exactly. But we've been going for a while, so I think that's probably a good place to end the video. Yabatan, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I apologize for speaking over you the entire time, as I typically do. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
Yeah.
Always appreciate you being here. And thank you guys for tuning in. See you again soon. Sayonara.
Mata ne!